Hey guys, what's up? My name is Rachel. Welcome officially to the fall garden. Now, it is still very much a partially summer, partial fall garden, but because it is officially fall, this is all officially the fall garden. And if you're new, welcome. We are about to go on a tour of my lovely about 30 by 30 in-ground garden. And every week I do this in order to show you guys, especially you new gardeners out there, sort of what to actually expect from your garden. Not just, oh, here, look at all these pretty plants I grew, but here's how I did it. Here's how I'm addressing the problems. And here's realistically what you can expect from gardening. Because I feel like a lot of content creators, while they mean well, don't do. Sorry, I'm having to work around big gusts of wind coming through because it is fall and the air is moving. But yeah, they just don't do as good a job showing kind of the highs and the lows. So if you're a new gardener, I hope that you'll follow along, and I hope that you will actually learn something. Right here at the front, I have my giant lemongrass plant. You can see its leaves are starting to get a little rusty looking on the ends. This is fine. This whole plant is coming up very soon anyway. It's not gonna really survive the winter here. So I'm going to need to put some in a pot and take it inside so that I can have some more next winter. Did I say winter? I definitely meant spring. I will replant the lemongrass in the spring after keeping it indoors all year, and everything that I'm not repotting I will dry and use for tea. I'll likely have so much of it that I will have to give it away, which I think my sister would be really excited here because she really likes lemony teas. Coming out very soon is also all of this ginger. It also will not really survive the winter. I mean, some of the rhizomes might, but I would rather just dig them all up and then replant next year because I've been getting pretty good harvests doing that. Also coming out soon are the zinnias. They are definitely looking ragged, although there are still some really beautiful fresh blooms on here. You can see these coming in. But last night was our first actually cold night. It got into the upper 30s here, and that is a sign that a lot of these heat-loving plants are going to start to really struggle. My purple basils are still looking really good, but you can see some of these leaves, that's that brownish stuff on it, not great. Now the lower leaves on these purple basils, they do turn green, they get more pale, but you can tell that it's really starting to struggle when you start seeing that actual browning, which is very evident in the green basils. You can see some of the browning. I'm pretty sure that that is just the plant being really super upset that it is cold outside. Marigolds don't seem to care at all that it is cooling off. They're still going hard, making plenty of seeds for me for next year. If you want to save seeds from your marigolds, all you need to do is look for these flowers that have turned brown. And then when you pull, they're just falling out of this one. These are the seeds, these long bits with the white and the black. These marigold seeds, you can just, once they're dried, just bring them inside, keep them in a cool, dark spot, and replant them next year. I do recommend doing a bit of a germination test. Just take a few in a plastic baggie with a wet paper towel and watch them and make sure that they do actually germinate so that you're not waiting for that to happen when it's not going to in the spring. These bean plants, these blue cocoa, are finishing up. I've been letting them all go to seed, and we're starting to get some dried seed pods off of these. These are full of completely edible beans as well as seeds for me to use next year. These beautiful white beans, they do dry to be a little bit darker brown. So since all the basils are struggling, it's pretty much time to go ahead and chop off the tops of everything that still looks good and make one last batch of pesto before I rip these plants out and give the stuff that I've kind of planted down here a little bit more room to grow. There's not as much in this midsection, but you can see here interplanted are some brassicas. These are mostly broccoli on this side. This is the one that I've been showing you guys each week. They got eaten down to like basically no leaves. And it is coming back, but you can see the size difference between its neighbors that did not have that setback. These are looking really good. With the frost imminent within like the next 2 or 3 weeks, these are in a really good position as far as I can tell for actually giving me a harvest. With stuff like this, you definitely want it to be coming into harvest right around your frosts because that'll make the plants sweeter. And the reason for that is because the plants that can survive a frost do so by lowering the freezing temperature of the water in their leaves. If it's just water inside every cell, when it freezes, you know, like ice cubes and stuff, the water expands and it pops the cells. So in order to make that not happen in freezing temperatures and something that's mostly water, if you increase the sugar, it will decrease the freezing point of that water and the plant will not burst when it gets cold. Looking down this second row, here's the trellis we were just walking along. We've still got some more zinnias up here near the front. They're in about the same shape. You can see they're looking a little rough. We've definitely got some dead heads on here, but you know, some of them near the top are still trying to bloom, which is just absolutely gorgeous for October. And down here underneath the trellis, I've got my fava beans, which are growing surprisingly well, given that it hasn't rained here in like 3 weeks. And I have really only surface level watered the garden. I have not done any deep watering. So these plants are being born in a drought time, basically. I'm hoping they look great. I'm hoping that means they have really nice deep roots that are going to sustain them and make them stronger plants. I did make sure to water them a bit as they were germinating, but even then I didn't honestly do that great of a job. And once I saw that the sprouts were just still looking healthy even without the rain, I decided I wasn't going to make a big deal out of watering them because they seemed to be doing just fine, and why water them if I don't have to? I'm a little bit lazy about these things, but I am hoping that the plants are a little more resilient because of that. And if I'm selecting for the ones that make it through this, then that's just going to make them more resilient in years to come. The rutabagas, however, are not faring so well with this lazy style of gardening. Hello, Draco. They are struggling, and I could probably water them more, but you know, I've got like, I don't know, 15 of them here. 15, if all of them made roots, would be a pretty good harvest for me. But yeah, looking at these, they could probably use a little bit more care from me and a little less being stepped on by the cats. Draco? In this area, I also have some random sweet peppers and a bunch of eggplant that, now that it's cooling off, are actually finally deciding to make more fruits for me. These eggplants definitely had a rough year, and I've gotten a few, not as many as I would have liked. And usually, ooh, those are spiky. Usually I would have taken like basically this whole section out by now to put in more cold-loving stuff. But because the eggplants and the peppers have so many like close to done fruits on them, I am gonna stretch it a bit and see if I can get more ripe fruits out of this area and just take the loss as far as not having that head start on the fall stuff here. I could probably put in some super hardy things like kales, especially when do really well. I also have a bunch of lettuce starts that are neglected at this point, but I could probably plug some of those in here as soon as I start taking all of this out. But in the meantime, I did plant a few things. There are some little peas back here. You see right there? That is a pea sprout. I have also some spinach sprouts here. That one is a spinach. It's struggling, I think probably with the lack of water, but also it's heavily shaded out. There should have been another spinach in here, but I don't think it ever germinated. But the peas and the spinaches, and then plug in some lettuces, This area will probably not go wasted over the fall season. Not to mention I do need still space for onions and garlic, which are going in November. We're gonna come around to the other side of that area because I can't walk through here anymore. But this is the other side of the eggplant. We've obviously still got the ginger in here too, which is coming out soon. And this eggplant right here, this is my favorite one. It's called Antigua. Some people call it fairy eggplant because of the beautiful stripies. I'm really hoping to save some seeds off of these, but we'll see if I can make it happen. We've also got corn here. This is popcorn, and you can see everything is starting to get yellow, which is really great. That means everything's starting to dry out. That is something that the lack of rain has been really good for. My beans that need to dry out, my corn that needs to dry out is having no trouble drying out. This is usually really humid climate here in South Carolina, so this like extended period of lack of rain is, you know, it's unusual. It's coming at a very opportune time though, as if you think about it as far as all the stuff that needs to dry out outside. I can dry these things inside, which I do end up doing sometimes, but it's just so much nicer if I can just leave it out here and let the sun do it. We have gone around because our spider friend is still here. Been learning more about it, and I am starting to think that this one is invasive. And I don't know how damaging that is, but I'm also not entirely sure. It's definitely not a standard banana spider, and it doesn't have its little mate anymore. But it is a spider doing spider things here in the garden, and it doesn't seem to be really attacking anything that it shouldn't. Since it's been here so long, maybe we should give it a name. What do you guys think? Suggestions? Here's a better close-up look of the corn. I'll try not to crinkle it too much because that tends to get loud in the mic. But these are definitely getting to the point where I would start opening them and checking to see how dried they are on the inside. Also here at the end of the row we have more of the brassicas. This area is really filling out. It feels like it's filling out really quickly, especially once these guys get going and they start sending out these big old leaves. They just take up a lot of space. These should be Brussels sprouts. Pretty much all of these should be Brussels sprouts. And well, there's also potatoes in here. If you're just tuning in, I definitely planted the potatoes first, forgot about them, and then planted these starts here. So we're gonna see if it can all kind of coexist here because I'm feeling unwilling to tear out the potatoes. We've also got the onions that I left from this spring. Those bulbs are splitting, as you can see, and putting up new growth. These are the onions that will flower in the spring for me and give me seeds. All right, we're back at the front now, looking at the third row, which is the trellises. Again, we've got these noodle beans here, which are going to seed and drying out. This one you can see is pretty much completely dried. I can go ahead and pull that one and pull out the beans inside. Again, they are edible and also seeds for next year. I think these are third generation noodle beans from my garden, which is really cool. My holy basil here has just been continuing to spread out. I actually haven't pulled from it in a while. It should be making seeds for me at this point. You can see how it's starting to turn brown. The bees are still loving it, so I'm definitely not upset about just leaving it here. Maybe it'll reseed itself, but I'll also be trying to take some seeds from it. There's a chance of cross-pollination though, because I do have so many types of basil in the garden. I will probably also plant some fresh from seed from a packet since I did not protect these blossoms at all. The blue butterfly peas are doing really great. We've got lots of pods on them now. I'm hoping that they have time to fill out before the frost comes, because I'm going to need a lot of seeds for these since the germination rate tends to be kind of low. But you can still see we're making flowers and the plant looks super duper healthy. I've been really loving this plant. I've been loving the tea that this plant makes. It's just a really good trellis plant, and it's pretty thickly planted down here, but I think if I planted it a little more thinly, it would share the trellis really well with something like cucumbers, which is what I tried to do over here, and we only got one plant come up here, as well as a cucumber that made me like 2 or 3 before it really died. It's not super this plant's fault. It was definitely a weird time in the season for it to be growing. But we got something and not nothing out of it, so that's good. Moving on to the hot pepper patch. This also I might have taken out by now if it wasn't for all of these almost ripe fruits all over these plants. I'm really just playing a game here, really hoping that these guys ripen before the frost. Like, look at this. These are Anaheim peppers, and I can see just 5, 6 right here. Look at all of these. They're so close. I really do want to try and get them all to ripen. I also technically planted more rutabagas down here. You can see these are struggling even more than the other ones. They're just so tiny. They're not growing really at all. Back here in this corner we've got more brassicas, as well as, oh, that's a potato. These are sweet potatoes. Sweet potato vines will come up very soon. And I've also got this blueberry here, which is about to go dormant. And hopefully it will look a lot less scraggly next year, especially now that it has like time to establish a root system and not be in a pot where it's gonna be dehydrated and neglected by me. This whole section under the tree with the sweet peppers, it looks sadder than it is because these cages are having a really hard time holding these plants up with how shallow they had to be in the ground. I've got clay and rocks and also the roots from this tree kind of preventing me from stuffing these cages too deep. So in the future, this is going to be probably not a good space for plants that need support like this, or I'll have to come up with a better kind of support. But overall, I think these peppers did really well in this area. They were a little slow, but so was everything else. And there's actually a ton of green sweet peppers out here right now. This zinnia I could take out today. It looks awful. Look at that powdery mildew. Surprising that it's doing so bad with the powdery mildew even though we haven't had rain. But that's definitely what that is. Alright, and then there's just this last little section where I have even more brassicas and these little baby corns. We've also got lettuce. Let's see, that's a lettuce. That's a lettuce. These are looking pretty good. There was one here that I'm pretty sure died. Oh no, it didn't. Look at that. It just blends right in with these leaves. That's that. But it is definitely not as big as the other ones. Maybe I should just make sure it's not getting shaded out. I don't think there's going to be anything on these little corn cobs. I really don't. They're tiny. They don't look plump at all. I'm still going to open them and see, but I'm going to get like, what, 5 kernels off of each of these, if that. Definitely not a win. Over here by the stairs, I've got my strawberries. These are my onion starts and my neglected lettuce starts. These lettuces, they look kind of sad, but I think if I got them in the ground, they would snap back like that, especially if it started raining again. They're just going to be, they would be a little stunted. They would definitely not get as big as the ones that I planted out like 3 weeks ago. Almost forgot to show you guys the past plants. This rutabaga is like basically leaping out of the soil at this point. Looks kind of great, gotta be honest. And then the dill over here also has been really thriving. Plants that volunteer and like make it this far tend to be really hardy plants. So I might try and leave this dill here as long as possible. If it made seeds for me, that would be great. But also part of why it's doing so well is because it's actually not hot enough for it to make seeds. So I will at least get a nice dill harvest off of this, and the lesson that fall dill is kind of profitable. Looking at the raised beds, the vast majority of all of this is perennial, so I'm not worrying about tearing anything out for the winter. A lot of it will die back, like for example this Mexican tarragon will die pretty much completely back, so I should harvest as much of it as I can and dry it. This is already too much for me. I should probably be giving it away. I also learned recently that I can take cuttings of it and propagate it that way, so maybe I can make a little selection of plants to give away with the strawberries that I've been meaning to give away. It's the same with this raised bed. pretty much all of this is perennial, except for this top bit, which is carrots. Somebody mentioned thinning these out, and while I don't disagree with you, I am having such a hard time thinking about thinning them out because, gosh, it took so much effort to get these stupid things to sprout, and they look so healthy. Maybe I will learn a hard lesson, but for now, we will just see how it goes. And if we look over here at the berry patch, you can see the strawberries aren't struggling at all with this cold, although they will eventually go into dormancy once it gets cold enough. And from this spreading, they will kind of regroup, make more berries next year, and then spread some more. I've been reading, and I think about every 3 years is the verdict on how often I should come through here and kind of prune out the plants that are spent. But hopefully this will be a very self-sustaining patch. And I did it all from just one plant. It took time, but I'm pretty happy with my choice. I've also got these blueberry bushes finally poking through. I want to extend this out and add the 2 more that I have still in pots. But I was originally going to maybe tear out the sicker looking ones of these, but they're doing okay. I just don't have the heart. I really need to see if they recover. We're definitely still getting berries, both from the blackberries and the raspberries. I actually need to come through here and do some more harvesting, apparently. This is just enough for fresh eating for me these days. And when this comes back in the spring, I think I'll be pretty overwhelmed. I might have to start my own little U-pick with my friends. You want fruit? You can have as much as you want, as long as you come here to pick it. We will see, though. We'll see if the harvest is actually as big as I think it's gonna be. If you guys liked this video and you want to catch up on all the garden tours this year, I'll leave that playlist right here. And for those of you who have kept up the whole time, oh my gosh, you guys are so cool. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your support. Until next time, happy gardening.